On a sweltering summer morning in Atlanta, FedEx driver Marcus Thompson's routine delivery becomes anything but ordinary when he hears a desperate whisper through a door. What follows is an extraordinary story of courage, as this kind-hearted man must decide whether to walk away or risk everything to help a child in crisis. In a world where people often look the other way, one person's choice to stop and listen changes lives forever. But before we dive into this powerful journey of hope and second chances, tell us in the comments where you're watching from today, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories. The familiar scent of fresh coffee wafted through the FedEx loading dock as Marcus Thompson arrived for his 6 a.m. shift. At 42, he'd been doing this job long enough to have his morning routine down to a science, but that didn't stop him from taking time to make each day count. "Morning, Miss Beverly," he called out to the elderly dispatch supervisor who'd been there even longer than him. She looked up from her clipboard and gave him that warm smile that always reminded him of his grandmother. "Marcus, honey, you're early again," Beverly said, checking her watch. "One of these days, you're gonna wear yourself out." Marcus chuckled, already reaching for his thermos. "You know what my grandma used to say? The early bird catches the worm, but the kind bird shares it." He poured a second cup of coffee from his thermos and handed it to Jake, the new driver who'd started last week. The young man's hands were shaking slightly as he reviewed his route sheets. "First week jitters?" Marcus asked, leaning against the truck while Jake gratefully accepted the coffee. "That obvious, huh?" Jake smiled nervously. "I keep thinking I'm going to mess up the scanner or deliver to the wrong address." "Hey, we all started somewhere." Marcus pulled out his phone and showed Jake a photo of a package he'd delivered 7 years ago, stuck halfway up a tree. "At least you haven't done this yet." Wind caught it right as I was handing it over. Customer thought it was hilarious. Thank goodness. The loading dock filled with laughter, and Marcus could see Jake's shoulders relaxing. This was what he loved about his job. These little moments of connection that made everyone's day a bit brighter. As Marcus loaded his truck, he couldn't help but think about his grandmother. She'd raised him after his parents died in a car accident when he was 12, and her wisdom had shaped every aspect of his life. "Trust your gut, baby," she'd always said. God gave us instincts for a reason. Even now, 10 years after her passing, he could hear her voice clear as day. The sun was just beginning to paint the sky in shades of pink and orange as Marcus pulled out of the depot. His route took him through the familiar streets of Cedar Grove, a mixed neighborhood of working-class families and young professionals on the outskirts of Atlanta. Every turn held a story, every stop a familiar face. Right on schedule, he spotted Mr. and Mrs. Chun on their morning walk. The elderly couple had been waving to him every morning for the past 5 years, ever since he'd helped Mr. Chun carry a heavy package inside during a rainstorm. "Marcus," Mrs. Chun called out, waving enthusiastically. "We made too many dumplings again." He pulled over, knowing full well their accidental extra dumplings were a regular occurrence. "You two are going to make me too fat to do my job," he laughed, accepting the small container she pressed into his hands. "Nonsense," Mr. Chun replied with a wink. "You need strength for all the packages." A few blocks later, he heard the excited squeals before he saw them. The Rodriguez kids, ages 6 and 8, jumping up and down on their front porch. Their mother, Elena, stood in the doorway with an apologetic smile. "You know what they're waiting for," she called out. Marcus grinned and gave the horn 2 quick honks, sending the children into fits of delight. It had become their morning ritual ever since he'd started this route, and their joy was infectious. "You spoil them," Elena said as he handed her a package. "Life's too short not to spread a little happiness," Marcus replied, thinking of his grandmother again. She'd always said that joy multiplied when shared, like bread broken among friends. The morning continued with its usual rhythm. He delivered a package to Sarah Mitchell, a new mom who looked like she hadn't slept in days. Her baby boy was fussing in her arms as she tried to sign for the delivery. "Here, let me hold him for a minute," Marcus offered, and Sarah's relief was visible as she handed over her son. The baby immediately quieted, fascinated by Marcus's deep, gentle voice as he softly sang "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star," another trick his grandmother had taught him. "You're a lifesaver," Sarah sighed, quickly signing the scanner. "I haven't had a free hand all morning." Next was Old Joe's Hardware, where the owner, Joe Martinez, was already waiting by the door. Right on time, as always, Joe said, offering Marcus a bottle of water. "How's the truck holding up in this heat?" "Can't complain," Marcus replied, helping Joe move the boxes inside. Though the AC's working overtime today. It was approaching noon when Marcus checked his scanner for the next delivery. The address was on Maple Street, a part of his route he rarely visited. As he turned onto the quiet street lined with modest single-story homes, something felt different. The houses here showed signs of wear, with peeling paint and overgrown lawns. But one house stood out even among its neglected neighbors. 2487 Maple Street had a sort of heaviness about it. The grass was too tall, hiding scattered toys that looked like they hadn't been touched in weeks. The windows were dirty, and one was cracked slightly, covered by what appeared to be a blanket rather than proper curtains. The house seemed to slouch, as if carrying a weight too heavy for its foundation. Marcus double-checked the address on his scanner, then grabbed the package from the truck. It wasn't heavy, about the size of a shoebox, but something about it made him uneasy. The label showed it was from an online retailer, addressed to James Wilson. The concrete path to the front door was cracked, with weeds pushing through like desperate fingers reaching for the sun. A child's bicycle lay on its side near the steps, its once bright paint now dull and chipping. A deflated basketball sat in a flower bed that held nothing but dirt and cigarette butts. Marcus rang the doorbell, hearing it echo inside the house. He waited, scanning the property, with growing unease. His grandmother's voice whispered in his mind, "Trust your gut, baby." The door's paint was peeling, revealing layers of different colors beneath, like archaeological evidence of happier times. After a minute with no response, Marcus gently set the package down by the door. As he straightened up, movement caught his eye, a slight shift in the blanket covering the cracked window. That's when he noticed more details that seemed out of place. A small handprint on the window, too fresh to match the general neglect. A purple hair ribbon caught in the overgrown bushes. A coloring book page torn and stuck in the screen door, its cheerful butterflies a stark contrast to the gloomy surroundings. Marcus took one last look at the house, unable to shake the feeling that something was wrong. He turned to leave, his footsteps crunching on the gravel path. Then he heard it, so faint he almost missed it. A whisper drifted through the crack in the window. A child's voice, trembling with fear. "Help me." Marcus froze, his heart suddenly pounding in his chest. The world seemed to go silent, except for that desperate whisper echoing in his ears and his grandmother's words in his mind. God gave us instincts for a reason. He turned back toward the house, every sense now alert, knowing that his next decision would change everything. The delivery route could wait. Something told him this was where he needed to be. Marcus's heart thundered in his chest as he stood frozen on the cracked walkway. The whisper hung in the air like a ghost, making the hair on the back of his neck stand up. He turned slowly, his boots crunching on the gravel, and faced the house again. "Hello," he called softly, taking a careful step toward the door. "Is someone there?" Silence answered him. The summer heat pressed down, making his FedEx uniform stick to his skin, but he barely noticed. He moved closer to the door, straining to hear. Maybe he'd imagined it. Maybe the heat was playing tricks on his mind. Then he heard it again, clearer this time, coming from just behind the door. "Please don't go." The voice was small, frightened. A little girl's voice, trembling with fear. "I'm scared." Marcus's protective instincts kicked in immediately. He kept his own voice gentle, barely above a whisper. "I'm not going anywhere, sweetheart. Are you okay?" A pause, then "No. I need help." Marcus glanced at his truck, then back at the door. He moved closer, speaking near the crack where the door met the frame. "My name is Marcus. I'm a delivery driver. You probably saw my truck outside. Can you tell me your name?" Another pause, longer this time. He could hear soft breathing on the other side of the door. Finally, the whisper came again. "I'm Lily." "Hi, Lily. Are you hurt? Can you open the door for me?" "I can't." Her voice cracked. "Daddy's mad. He locked me in. He said if I make any noise." She trailed off, and Marcus could hear the terror in her silence. Marcus tried the doorknob, finding it locked as expected. He peered through the windows, but the blankets blocked his view. "How long have you been locked in, Lily?" "I don't know. The sun came up 2 times, Her voice quivered. There's no food in here. Just old chips under my bed. Daddy. He gets mean when he drinks the brown bottles. He forgets to make food. Marcus felt his stomach tighten with anger, but kept his voice calm. When did you last see your daddy, Lily? He's upstairs. I hear him walking sometimes. Breaking things. She paused, and Marcus heard a small sniffle. Please don't leave me. Everyone leaves me. I'm not leaving you, Lily. I promise. Marcus walked around the porch, looking for another way in. All the windows were locked or boarded up. He noticed more disturbing details, scratch marks on the windowsills, what looked like dried blood on one of the boards. Is there anyone else in the house with you? No. Mommy went away. Daddy said she's not coming back. Lily's voice dropped even lower. I'm not supposed to talk about Mommy. It makes him angry. Marcus returned to the door, not wanting to leave Lily alone for too long. How old are you, Lily? 7. I missed my birthday party at school. Daddy said I was bad and couldn't go. Marcus closed his eyes, fighting to control his emotions. His grandmother's voice echoed in his head. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stay calm when everything inside you is screaming. You're being very brave, Lily, he said. Can you tell me if there's a phone in the house? Or a way you could unlock the door? No phones. Daddy broke them all. He has one, but he keeps it with him. She hesitated. The door has lots of locks. I can't reach them all. Suddenly, a loud thud came from upstairs, followed by the sound of breaking glass. Lily gasped. He's coming, she whispered urgently. He'll be mad if he sees you. Marcus could hear heavy footsteps stumbling above, accompanied by slurred cursing. His heart raced as he quickly stepped back from the door and pulled out his phone. Lily, listen to me carefully, he whispered. I'm going to call for help. Stay quiet and hide if you need to, but don't worry. I'm not leaving. I'll be right here. Promise? Her voice was barely audible now. I promise. Remember, stay quiet. Marcus dialed 911 with shaking fingers, moving to the side of the porch where he could keep an eye on both the door and the upstairs windows. A dispatcher answered on the second ring. 911. What's your emergency? Marcus kept his voice low but clear. My name is Marcus Thompson. I'm a FedEx driver making a delivery at 2487 Maple Street. There's a 7-year-old girl locked inside named Lily. She says her father has kept her locked up for at least 2 days without food. He's in the house right now, and I can hear him breaking things. She's terrified. I understand, sir. Are you in a safe location? Yes, I'm outside on the porch. But please hurry. I can hear him moving around up there, and she says he gets violent when he drinks. Officers are being dispatched now, the dispatcher assured him. Can you stay on the line? More crashes came from inside, followed by angry shouting. Marcus's heart jumped as he heard Lily whimper behind the door. Yes, I'll stay on the line, but I need to keep Lily calm. She's right by the door. That's fine, sir. Officers are 4 minutes out. Try to keep both yourself and the child calm and quiet. Marcus moved back to the door, speaking as softly as he could. Lily, are you still there? Yes, came the faintest whisper. I'm scared. He's breaking Mommy's pictures again. It's okay to be scared, Marcus soothed, while keeping the phone to his ear. But help is coming. Want to know something? I used to be scared a lot when I was your age. You did? The surprise in her voice was clear, even in a whisper. Sure did. But my grandmother taught me a special trick. Want to hear it? Yes, please. She told me to close my eyes and think of my favorite color. What's yours? Purple, Lily whispered. Like the flowers Mommy used to grow. That's a beautiful color. Now, imagine you're wrapped up in a big, warm, purple blanket. It's magic, and nothing bad can get through it. Can you do that? Her voice steadied slightly. Is it okay if I imagine it as butterflies on it? That's perfect. Those butterflies are your protectors. Each one is watching over you. More crashes came from upstairs, closer now. Marcus could hear the man's footsteps moving toward the stairs. What was that? Lily's voice trembled again. Just focus on your butterfly blanket, sweetheart. Tell me about the butterflies. What colors are they? Blue ones and yellow ones and... She stopped suddenly as heavy footsteps started down the stairs. He's coming down. Stay quiet. Marcus breathed. Remember your butterfly blanket. Help is almost here. The dispatcher's voice came through the phone. Officers are 1 minute out. Please maintain your position and stay safe. Marcus could hear the man stumbling down the stairs, knocking against the wall. Lily had gone completely silent, but Marcus could still hear her shallow breathing behind the door. Everything's going to be okay, he whispered, as much to himself as to Lily. His grandmother's words came back to him again. Sometimes God puts us in the right place at the right time for a reason. In the distance, he could hear sirens approaching. Help was coming. He just hoped it would arrive in time. The footsteps reached the bottom of the stairs, and a man's angry voice boomed through the house. Who's making noise down here? Marcus heard Lily's tiny gasp of fear, and in that moment, he knew he would do whatever it took to protect this child he'd never even seen. The sirens grew louder, and he silently prayed they would get there before the father discovered his daughter had asked for help. Sometimes the longest moments in life last only seconds, but feel like years. As Marcus stood there, listening to the heavy footsteps approaching the front of the house, those seconds stretched into eternity. But he kept his promise. He didn't leave. He wouldn't leave, not until Lily was safe. The butterflies in her imaginary blanket weren't the only ones watching over her now. Marcus Thompson, FedEx driver and unexpected guardian angel, stood his ground, ready to face whatever came next. Marcus pressed himself against the wall beside the door, his heart racing as James Wilson's heavy footsteps drew closer. The sirens were still too far away, their wailing a distant promise of help. His eyes darted to the door's hinges, assessing their strength. Could he break it down if he had to? Should he? They're coming, Lily, he whispered, barely audible. Just stay quiet for me, okay? Through the crack in the door, he heard her tiny response. I'm under the table. Like you said. The footsteps stopped somewhere in the middle of the house. Glass crunched under boots, followed by the distinct sound of a bottle being set down hard on a surface. Marcus held his breath, listening. Lily? The man's voice was thick, slurred. You better not be making noise again. Marcus's fists clenched involuntarily. Through the window, he caught glimpses of a tall figure stumbling through what must be the living room. James Wilson was a big man, easily 6'3", with unkempt dark hair and several days' worth of stubble. His t-shirt was stained, and he moved with the unsteady gait of someone who'd been drinking heavily. Your daddy. Lily's whisper was so faint Marcus almost missed it. He used to be different. Before Mommy. What happened to your mommy, Lily? Marcus kept his voice gentle, though his eyes never left the window where he could see James moving around. She got sick. Really sick. Daddy said the doctors couldn't help her. Lily's voice caught. After she went to heaven, Daddy started drinking the brown bottles. He said looking at me hurts because I look like her. Marcus closed his eyes for a moment, his heart aching. The sirens were getting closer, but still not close enough. He won't let me go outside anymore, Lily continued, her words tumbling out now like she'd been holding them in forever. I missed the last day of first grade, and my friend Katie's birthday party. And the ice cream truck comes every Tuesday, but I can't. She broke off as another crash came from inside. Marcus peered through the window again. James had knocked over a lamp and was now standing in front of what appeared to be a wall of photos. Even from this distance, Marcus could see they were all of the same woman, beautiful, with long dark hair and Lily's delicate features. I haven't had real food in so long, Lily whispered. Just the chips I found and some crackers. The water from the bathroom sink tastes funny. Marcus glanced at his truck, where he knew he had a sandwich and water bottle in his lunch bag. But there was no way to get them to her, and the thought made his frustration surge. He looked at the door again, wondering if he could kick it in. But if he failed, if James heard him. You're so brave, Lily, he said instead, pushing down his anger. You did exactly the right thing asking for help. I'm going to make sure you're safe. Promise? The hope in her voice nearly broke him. I promise. And you know what? My grandmother always said promises are sacred. They're like invisible strings that connect our hearts. A small sound came from behind the door, almost like a laugh, but sadder. I like that. Did your grandmother teach you lots of things? She sure did. She raised me after my parents went to heaven, just like your mommy. Marcus kept his voice steady, though his eyes were fixed on James, who was now running his hands over the photos on the wall. She taught me that being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means doing the right thing even when you are scared. The sirens were getting louder now. James's head snapped up at the sound, and he stumbled away from the photo wall. "Someone coming," he slurred loudly. "Lily, did you do something?" Marcus heard Lily's frightened gasp. Through the window, he could see James turning in circles, his movements becoming more agitated. "I'm going to check outside," James called out. "And if you've been making noise—" Marcus's mind raced. He could try to rush the door now, before James got there. He was in good shape. All those years of lifting packages had kept him strong. But if he failed, if James was armed, the image of Lily hiding under that table, hungry and afraid, made him clench his fists. But his grandmother's voice came to him again. Sometimes the bravest thing is being smart enough to wait for help. The decision was made for him as two police cruisers rounded the corner, their sirens cutting off as they approached the house. James stumbled back from the window, cursing. Four officers emerged from the vehicles, moving quickly but cautiously. Marcus waved them over, speaking in urgent whispers. "The girl's name is Lily. She's 7, been locked in for at least 2 days without proper food. Her father's inside, drunk and violent. I've been talking to her through the door. She's hiding under a table." The lead officer, a woman with short gray hair and steady eyes, nodded sharply. "I'm Sergeant Rivera. Where was he last?" "Living room, straight ahead when you enter." He was by the wall of photos. Big guy, unstable on his feet. Rivera gestured to her colleagues, their movements precise and practiced. 2 officers moved to the back of the house while she and her partner approached the front door. "Police, open up." Rivera's voice rang out with authority. Silence from inside, then the sound of something else breaking. "Mr. Wilson, this is the police. We need you to open the door now." More crashes, then James's voice, angry and slurred. "Get off my property. Ain't done nothing wrong. Last chance, Mr. Wilson. Open the door or we're coming in." When no response came, Rivera nodded to her partner. He stepped back, then kicked the door hard near the lock. The wood splintered but held. A second kick, and the door burst inward. Marcus stayed on the porch, his heart in his throat, as the officers entered with weapons drawn. He could hear them announcing their presence, hear James shouting incoherently from somewhere inside. "Lily," he called softly. "The police are here to help. Stay under your table, okay? Everything's going to be all right now." The sounds of a struggle came from inside, shouting, something heavy falling. Then Rivera's voice, "Suspect secured. Find the girl." Marcus peered through the doorway. The house was dark, the air stale with the smell of alcohol and neglect. James was face down on the floor, Rivera's partner handcuffing him, while he continued to struggle and curse. Under the table, Marcus called to the officers searching the house. In the corner, one of the officers who'd gone around back was checking behind a couch. At Marcus's words, he moved to a small table in the corner, its surface cluttered with empty bottles and old mail. He crouched down slowly. "Lily? I'm Officer Chun. We're here to help." Marcus held his breath. For a moment, nothing moved. Then, slowly, a small figure emerged from under the table. Lily was tiny for 7, her dark hair tangled and unwashed. She wore a stained t-shirt that was too big for her, and clutched a ratty blanket that might once have been purple. Her face was pale and drawn, with dark circles under her eyes that no child should have. She looked around fearfully, shrinking back when she saw her father being lifted to his feet. Then her eyes found Marcus in the doorway. "Marcus." Her voice was barely a whisper. Is that really you?" "It's me, Lily," he said softly. "You're safe now, just like I promised." She took a small step forward, then another. Officer Chen reached out to steady her when she swayed slightly. "The butterfly blanket," she said, looking down at the worn fabric in her hands. "It worked, just like you said." Marcus felt tears burning in his eyes as he watched Officer Chen lift her gently. She was so small, so fragile. But she had survived. She had been brave enough to whisper for help, and now she was safe. As they carried her past her father, Lily turned her face away, pressing it into Officer Chen's shoulder. James, his hands cuffed behind him, suddenly seemed to deflate. "Lily?" His voice cracked. "Baby, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." But Lily kept her face hidden, her small hands clutching her blanket and Officer Chen's uniform. As they passed Marcus in the doorway, She lifted her head slightly. "Thank you," she whispered, "for not leaving." Marcus watched as they carried her to the waiting ambulance, his grandmother's words echoing in his mind. Sometimes God puts us in the right place at the right time for a reason. Today, that reason had been Lily. James Wilson's rage exploded as the officers attempted to lead him from the house. Despite the handcuffs, he thrashed violently, his face contorted with anger and desperation. "This is my house," he roared, trying to twist away from Officer Rivera's grip. "You can't take my little girl. She's all I have left." "Stop resisting, Mr. Wilson," Rivera commanded firmly, while her partner, Officer Brooks, maintained his hold. "You're only making this worse for yourself." James responded by attempting to headbutt Brooks, but the officer anticipated the move and sidestepped. In the process, James lost his balance, and both officers used the momentum to safely bring him to the ground. "Don't need help," James slurred, his face pressed against the worn carpet. "Taking care of my daughter just fine." "By keeping her locked up?" Rivera's voice was steel. "By starving her?" The fight seemed to drain from James suddenly, replaced by broken sobs. "Laura, I'm sorry, Laura. I couldn't do it without you." While the officers dealt with James, Marcus watched Officer Chin carrying Lily out of the house. In the daylight, her condition was even more apparent. Her dark hair hung in matted tangles around a face that was far too pale. The oversized t-shirt she wore might have once been pink, but was now a dingy gray, hanging like a ghost around her thin frame. Her bare feet were dirty, with small cuts that spoke of walking on broken glass. Marcus took an instinctive step forward. "Is she okay?" Lily's head lifted slightly at his voice. Her eyes, large and brown like her mother's in the photos, found his face. "Marcus," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "I'm right here, sweetheart," he assured her, his heart breaking at how small and fragile she looked in Officer Chin's arms. "Thank you," she managed, clutching her ragged purple blanket tighter. "For staying." The wail of another siren announced the arrival of an ambulance. Two paramedics quickly emerged, a woman with auburn hair pulled back in a tight braid, and a younger man carrying medical equipment. "I'm Sarah, and this is Mike," the female paramedic introduced herself, her voice gentle as she approached Lily. "We're going to take good care of you, okay?" Officer Chin carried Lily to the ambulance, where the paramedics had set up their equipment. As they began their examination, Marcus overheard their quiet observations. Significant malnourishment, dehydration, multiple bruises in various stages of healing, small lacerations on feet and hands. Sarah spoke softly to Lily as she worked. "Can you tell me if anything hurts, sweetheart?" "My tummy," Lily whispered, "and my head sometimes. The lights are too bright." While the paramedics attended to Lily, Marcus noticed Sergeant Rivera speaking with another officer who had just arrived. Their voices carried in the morning air. James Wilson, the new officer, read from his tablet. Multiple priors for domestic violence against his late wife, Laura. 2 complaints of child neglect filed by Lily's school, but the cases were dropped when he cleaned up his act enough to pass inspection. Laura died of cancer 8 months ago. Rivera shook her head, and no one followed up after that. Systems overloaded, the officer replied grimly. Too many cases, not enough workers. The commotion had drawn the attention of the neighbors. Several stood on their porches or sidewalks, watching the scene unfold with a mixture of shock and guilt on their faces. An elderly woman approached Marcus, wringing her hands. "I live next door," she said, her voice trembling. "Sometimes at night, I thought I heard crying, but—" She trailed off, tears in her eyes. "I should have done something." A middle-aged man joined them, his face drawn. "We all should have. I saw him bringing in case after case of whiskey, but never any groceries. I told myself it wasn't my business." Marcus felt a complex mix of emotions surge through him. Relief that Lily was finally getting help, but also anger at how long she had suffered in silence. How many people had heard her cries and turned away? How many had seen the signs but chosen not to get involved? His grandmother's words came back to him. "Indifference is the opposite of love, baby." Sometimes the worst sin isn't doing wrong, but seeing wrong and doing nothing. Near the ambulance, James was being placed in the back of a police car. His anger had dissolved into tears, and he kept mumbling his late wife's name. Marcus caught fragments of his broken monologue. Laura, I tried. She looked so much like you. Couldn't bear to look at her. Couldn't bear to let her go. The paramedics were finishing their initial assessment of Lily. Mike was applying bandages to her feet while Sarah prepared in four-line. We need to get her to Atlanta General Hospital, Sarah announced. She's severely dehydrated, and we need to run more comprehensive tests. Marcus moved closer to the ambulance. Lily, you're going to be okay now. The doctors are going to help you feel better. Lily reached out a small hand toward him, and Marcus gently took it. Her fingers were cold despite the summer heat. Will you come too? She asked, her voice small and afraid. Before Marcus could respond, Sarah stepped in. We need to get her to the hospital quickly, she said, but her eyes were kind as she looked at Marcus. But you can definitely visit her there. Lily's fingers tightened around Marcus's hand. Promise? Remember what I told you about promises? Marcus said softly. They're like invisible strings connecting our hearts. I promise I'll come see you as soon as they say it's okay. A ghost of a smile crossed Lily's face, the first Marcus had seen. With a butterfly blanket? With a butterfly blanket, he confirmed, managing a smile of his own. The paramedics finished securing Lily for transport. As they prepared to close the ambulance doors, Marcus caught one last glimpse of her small face, now wearing an oxygen mask, but looking somehow more peaceful than before. The neighbors had gathered in small groups, watching as the ambulance pulled away, its sirens silent now, but lights still flashing. The police car containing James followed, turning in the opposite direction toward the station. Officer Rivera approached Marcus, her notebook in hand. We'll need a statement from you, she said. But first, I want to say thank you. Most people would have just left that package and driven away. Marcus watched the ambulance disappear around the corner, Lily's thank you still echoing in his ears. He thought of all the what-ifs. What if he'd been running late today? What if someone else had taken this route? What if he hadn't heard that whisper? I couldn't leave, he said simply. My grandmother always told me that sometimes God puts us in certain places for a reason. Today, that reason was Lily. Rivera nodded, understanding in her eyes. Well, that little girl is alive because you listened to your grandmother's wisdom. We'll need you to come down to the station later to make a formal statement, but for now, she handed him a card with the hospital's information. I have a feeling you'd rather head to Atlanta General Hospital first. Marcus took the card, already knowing he wouldn't be finishing his delivery route today. Beverly would understand. She'd probably insist on it, in fact. His eyes lingered on the house, with its broken door now hanging open, the scattered toys in the yard, the photos of Laura Wilson still visible through the window. So many people had looked away. So many had chosen not to get involved. But today, because one person chose to listen, to stay, to help, a little girl had a chance at a better life. As Marcus walked back to his truck, he sent up a silent prayer of thanks to his grandmother for teaching him to trust his instincts, and another for Lily, that she would heal, grow strong, and someday find her smile again. The morning sun had risen fully now, burning away the last shadows of dawn. Somewhere in an ambulance rushing toward help, a 7-year-old girl clutched a worn purple blanket and, for the first time in a long time, felt safe. And Marcus knew, with absolute certainty, that his day's most important delivery had nothing to do with packages at all. The children's wing of Atlanta General Hospital was a stark contrast to the darkness of Lily's home. Bright murals of jungle animals decorated the walls, and somewhere down the hall, Marcus could hear the sound of children laughing. He stood at the nurse's station, a purple stuffed butterfly clutched in his hands, his FedEx uniform exchanged for jeans and a clean button-down shirt. I'm here to see Lily Wilson, he said to the nurse, whose name tag read Patricia. I'm Marcus Thompson, the delivery driver who... Recognition flickered in Patricia's eyes. Oh yes, we've been expecting you. Let me call Ms. Andrews, the social worker. She needs to speak with you first. While he waited, Marcus studied the butterfly he'd bought that morning. Its wings were decorated with silver glitter, and it was impossibly soft to the touch. He hoped it would remind Lily of their conversation about her protective butterfly blanket. Mr. Thompson? He turned to find a woman in her 50s approaching, her silver-streaked hair pulled back in a neat bun. She extended her hand. I'm Rachel Andrews, Lily's social worker. Would you mind if we talked for a few minutes before you see her? They settled into chairs in a small consultation room. Through the window, Marcus could see children playing in a courtyard garden below. "First, I want to thank you for what you did yesterday," Rachel began, her voice warm but professional. "You quite literally saved Lily's life. The doctors say she was severely dehydrated and malnourished." Another day or two, she left the sentence unfinished. Marcus gripped the butterfly tighter. "How is she doing?" Rachel consulted her tablet. "Physically, she's responding well to treatment. They're reintroducing food slowly and monitoring her hydration levels. The cuts on her feet are healing, and the bruises." She paused, her jaw tightening slightly. "Well, those will heal too." "What happened to her mother?" Marcus asked quietly. Rachel's expression softened with sadness. "Laura Wilson was diagnosed with aggressive pancreatic cancer last year. She fought hard, but—" She shook her head. "James Wilson actually was a good father once. He and Laura met in college, both teachers. He taught high school physics. She taught elementary school art. They were happy." She pulled up a photo on her tablet. A younger, clean-shaven James Wilson with his arms around a beautiful woman with Lily's dark hair and eyes. Between them stood a beaming Lily, maybe 5 years old, holding up a painting of a butterfly. "Laura's death broke something in James," Rachel continued. "He started drinking, lost his job. Lily's school filed 2 reports of suspected neglect, but James would pull himself together just enough to pass inspection. Then he'd spiral again." Marcus thought of the wall of photos in the house, all of Laura. He couldn't look at Lily because she reminds him of her mother. Exactly. Classic transference of grief. But that's no excuse for what he did. Rachel set down her tablet. "Lily hasn't spoken much since arriving here. She's withdrawn, especially around male staff. But she did ask about you." Marcus looked up. "She did. She wanted to know if you were real, or if she'd imagined you. Trauma can sometimes make children question their memories." Rachel's eyes fell on the butterfly in his hands. "Is that for her?" "Yes. We talked about butterflies yesterday, when I was trying to keep her calm. I thought maybe—" "It's perfect," Rachel assured him. "She needs positive associations right now. Speaking of which—" She hesitated. "Last night was difficult. She woke up several times from nightmares, crying that her father was coming to take her back. The staff had to remind her that she's safe, that there are security guards at every entrance." Marcus felt his chest tighten. "She's afraid he'll find her?" "It's common in abuse cases. Children often maintain emotional bonds with their abusers, even while fearing them. It's complicated by the fact that James wasn't always abusive. Lily remembers her before Daddy, the one who read her stories and took her to the park. That makes it harder to process them after Daddy, who locked her away." A knock at the door interrupted them. Patricia, the nurse, poked her head in. "Ms. Andrews? Lily's asking for her butterfly blanket again. She seems anxious." Rachel stood. "This might be a good time for your visit, Mr. Thompson. But I should warn you, she may not be ready to interact much. Don't be discouraged if she's withdrawn." They walked together to Lily's room. Through the door's window, Marcus could see her sitting in the hospital bed, looking small against the white sheets. Her hair had been washed and braided, and she wore clean pink pajamas, but her face was still too pale, too thin. Rachel entered first. "Lily, you have a visitor." Lily looked up, clutching her worn purple blanket. When she saw Marcus, her eyes widened. "You came," she whispered. "You're real. I promised, didn't I?" Marcus smiled gently, staying near the door. "And I brought someone who wanted to meet you." He held up the stuffed butterfly. For a moment, Lily just stared. Then, slowly, she reached out one hand. Marcus approached carefully, aware of how she might be scared of adults, especially men. But when he got close enough, Lily suddenly launched herself forward, wrapping her arms around his waist. "You didn't leave me," she said into his shirt. "Everyone else left, but you stayed." Marcus felt tears pricking at his eyes as he carefully hugged her back. "Of course I stayed. Remember what I told you about promises?" Lily pulled back slightly, looking up at him. "They're like invisible strings connecting our hearts." "That's right." He handed her the butterfly, watching as she ran her fingers over its glittery wings. "It's so pretty," she whispered. "Like the ones Mommy used to paint." "Your mom was an artist?" Lily nodded, settling back against her pillows with the butterfly clutched to her chest. She painted butterflies everywhere. In my room, in her classroom. Her voice caught. Daddy painted over them after she went to heaven. He said they made him too sad. Marcus pulled a chair close to the bed, his heart aching as he thought about how close he'd come to just leaving that package and walking away. If he hadn't heard her whisper, if he'd been in a hurry. As if reading his thoughts, Rachel spoke softly from where she stood by the door. You can't focus on the what-ifs, Mr. Thompson. You did hear her. You did stay. That's what matters. Word of what had happened on Maple Street had spread quickly through the neighborhood. As Marcus had driven his route that morning, people had stopped him to ask about Lily. The elderly neighbor who'd heard crying had brought him a card to give her. The man who'd seen James buying whiskey had donated to a fund the hospital was setting up for her care. We should have done something, they all said. We knew something wasn't right, but they hadn't done anything. They'd looked away, told themselves it wasn't their business, assumed someone else would handle it. If Marcus had done the same, can you tell me a story? Lily's small voice pulled him from his thoughts. About your grandmother? Marcus smiled, pushing away the dark what-ifs. Well, my grandmother loved butterflies too. She had a garden full of flowers to attract them. She used to tell me that butterflies were proof that beautiful changes could happen, even when things seemed dark. Like how caterpillars turn into butterflies? Lily asked, her voice stronger now. Exactly like that. And you know what? She also said that sometimes people are like butterflies. They help others transform and grow, just by being there. Lily considered this, stroking her new butterfly's wings. Is that why you helped me? Because you're like a butterfly person? Marcus felt something shift in his heart. A certainty, a decision he hadn't even known he was making until that moment. Looking at this brave little girl who had whispered for help when the world had forgotten her, he knew he couldn't just walk away once she left the hospital. Whatever happened next, he needed to be part of ensuring she had a better future. Maybe, he said softly, or maybe you're the butterfly, Lily. Maybe you're the one teaching all of us how to be braver and kinder. Lily smiled, a real smile that lit up her whole face, and hugged her butterfly closer. Can I name her Laura? Like my mommy. That's a perfect name, Marcus said, watching as Lily's eyes began to droop with tiredness. Will you come back tomorrow? She asked, fighting to keep her eyes open. As long as it's okay with Ms. Andrews. Marcus looked at the social worker, who nodded. Promise? I promise. Remember the invisible string? Lily nodded, finally letting her eyes close. It connects our hearts, she murmured, drifting off to sleep with both the old purple blanket and the new butterfly named Laura held tight in her arms. Marcus stood quietly, careful not to wake her. Rachel walked with him to the door. You know, she said softly, we'll be looking for a foster placement once she's released from the hospital. Someone stable, someone who can help her heal. Marcus looked back at Lily's sleeping form. How would someone apply to be a foster parent? Rachel smiled, as if she'd been expecting the question. It's a long process. Background checks, home studies, training courses. Are you interested? Marcus thought of his grandmother, who had taken him in after his parents died, who had taught him about butterflies and promises, and doing the right thing even when it was hard. Yes, he said. I am. As he walked back to his truck, Marcus felt lighter somehow, despite the weight of the decision he'd just made. His grandmother had always said that sometimes the best changes in life came disguised as challenges. Looking up at Lily's window, he smiled, thinking that maybe she'd been right about that too. Like everything else. The weekend after meeting Lily, Marcus invited his closest friends over for dinner. As they sat around his modest dining table, the remains of Beverly's famous lasagna between them, he took a deep breath and shared his plans. I'm thinking of becoming Lily's foster parent, he said, watching their reactions carefully. Mike, his best friend since high school, set down his fork. The little girl from the delivery route? Marcus, that's a huge decision. I know. Marcus picked up his glass of water, then set it down again without drinking. But I can't explain it. When I heard her whisper through that door, it was like my grandmother was there, telling me this was what I needed to do. Beverly, his dispatch supervisor turned friend, reached across the table to squeeze his hand. Your grandmother would be proud, honey. But have you thought about what this means? Being a single parent isn't easy. That's why I wanted to talk to you all, Marcus admitted. I need to know if I'm crazy for even considering this. Sarah, Mike's wife and an elementary school teacher, leaned forward. Not crazy, but you need to understand what you're getting into. Lily's been through severe trauma. She'll need therapy, stability, patience. And the system isn't exactly friendly to single men trying to foster, Mike added. Especially black men? Marcus finished quietly. Yeah, I know. Ms. Andrews, her social worker, already warned me about that. The conversation with Rachel Andrews earlier that week had been sobering. She'd laid out all the challenges he'd face: intensive background checks, home studies, psychological evaluations, parenting classes, financial scrutiny. The process can take months, she'd explained. And even then, there's no guarantee. The court typically prefers placing children with families, particularly in cases involving trauma. You'd need to prove you can provide not just physical care, but emotional support and stability. But then she'd smiled. However, you have something many applicants don't: an existing bond with Lily. She trusts you, which is remarkable given her experience with her father. Now, looking at his friends' concerned faces, Marcus felt that same determination he'd experienced in the hospital. I know it won't be easy, but I have to try. Beverly straightened in her chair. Well, you can count on me for a character reference letter. I'll tell them how you've never missed a day of work in 15 years, how you know every customer's name on your route, how you share your lunch with that homeless veteran on 5th Street. And I'll write about how you helped coach my son's baseball team, Mike added. How the kids all look up to you. I can speak to your understanding of children's needs, Sarah offered. And I know several child psychologists who might be willing to consult. Marcus felt tears pricking at his eyes. Thank you, he managed. All of you. The next day, he visited Lily again. She was sitting up in bed, looking stronger, her new butterfly toy still clutched tight. Marcus. Her face lit up when she saw him. Look what the nurse brought me. She pointed to a small easel set up beside her bed, where a colorful painting was drying. Is that a butterfly garden? Marcus asked, studying the bright swirls of purple and blue. Like the one your grandmother had, Lily nodded. And look, I painted this one to look like Laura. She pointed to a particularly detailed butterfly. Mom taught me how to mix colors to get just the right shade of purple. She said every butterfly should be unique, like people. Marcus sat in his usual chair. Your mom sounds like she was a wonderful teacher. She was the best. Lily's voice grew soft. We used to have our time every Sunday. She'd set up easels in the backyard, and we'd paint together. Sometimes Dad would join us. She trailed off, her fingers twisting in her blanket. It's okay to miss those good memories, Marcus said gently. Do you think he'll ever be like that again? Like before? Marcus chose his words carefully. I don't know, sweetheart. But what I do know is that you deserve to be safe and happy, no matter what. Lily was quiet for a moment, then said, Ms. Andrews says I'll need to go somewhere else when I leave the hospital. That I can't go home. How do you feel about that? Scared, Lily admitted. But also kind of relieved? Is that bad? No, honey. That's not bad at all. The next week was a whirlwind of paperwork and appointments. Marcus submitted his initial fostering application, underwent fingerprinting, and started the required background checks. Rachel helped him navigate the process, but she didn't sugarcoat the challenges. There's already been some pushback, she told him one afternoon. Some people on the committee feel that a single man with no parenting experience isn't the best placement for a traumatized young girl. What can I do to prove them wrong? Keep doing what you're doing. Show them your support system, your stability, your commitment to Lily's well-being. The community rallied around him in ways he hadn't expected. His neighbors offered to help child-proof his house. Beverly adjusted his delivery route to accommodate future school runs. Sarah connected him with support groups for single parents and foster families. But not everyone was supportive. At the first foster parent training class, he overheard two women whispering, "A delivery driver? How can he afford to raise a child? And living alone? It's not natural. Children need a mother." Marcus thought of his grandmother, who'd raised him alone after his parents died. She'd worked 2 jobs, but she'd never missed a school play or a parent-teacher conference. She'd taught him that family wasn't about perfect circumstances, but about perfect love. Despite the whispers and doubts, he pressed on. He turned his home office into a bedroom for Lily, painting the walls her favorite shade of purple. Beverly helped him pick out furniture, a white dresser, a bookshelf for art supplies, a reading nook with soft pillows. Every child needs a space that feels like their own, she said as they hung butterfly decals on the walls. Marcus added special touches. A night light that projected stars on the ceiling, a soft rug perfect for sitting and drawing, and a brand new easel in the corner. On the dresser, he placed a framed photo of Laura Wilson that Rachel had given him, showing her painting with a young Lily in their backyard. She should have memories of her mother's love surrounding her, he explained when Sarah questioned if it might be too soon. His friends helped him stock the kitchen with healthy foods, child-sized plates, and step stools so Lily could reach the sink. Mike installed extra safety locks and a security system. Not just for Lily's safety, Mike said quietly, but for her peace of mind. She needs to know she's protected. One evening, as Marcus was organizing art supplies in Lily's new room, his phone rang. It was Rachel. The initial home study went well, she said, but the committee still has concerns. They're questioning whether you can handle a child with Lily's specific needs. Marcus sat on the purple bedspread he'd chosen because it matched Lily's butterfly toy. What does Lily want? There was a pause. Then Rachel's voice softened. She asks for you every day. When we talk about future placement, she gets anxious unless we mention your name. The hospital staff say you're the only person she fully trusts. Then I'll keep fighting, Marcus said simply. My grandmother taught me that anything worth having is worth fighting for. Speaking of fighting, Rachel hesitated. James Wilson's lawyer is arguing for rehabilitation and supervised visitation. Marcus's hand tightened on the phone. What does that mean for Lily? It means we need to move quickly with the temporary guardianship application. Are you sure you're ready for this? It won't be easy. Marcus looked around the room he'd created for Lily, at the butterflies on the walls, and the easel waiting for her art. He thought of her smile when she painted, of her trust when she shared memories of her mother, of her courage in whispering for help when the world had forgotten her. I'm sure, he said, Lily deserves a chance at a real childhood, at healing, at being the butterfly she was meant to be. Whatever it takes, I'm in this for the long haul. As he hung up, Marcus walked to the window. The spare room had the best view of his small backyard, where he'd already started planning a butterfly garden. His grandmother had always said that butterflies were attracted to love and patience, just like children. Looking at the empty flower beds, Marcus made a silent promise, not just to Lily, but to himself and to his grandmother's memory. He would create a home where a little girl could heal, grow, and spread her wings. No matter what challenges lay ahead, he would face them with the same courage Lily had shown in whispering through that door. Sometimes the best families weren't the ones you were born into, but the ones you chose to build, one butterfly at a time. The Atlanta family court building loomed before Marcus as he straightened his tie one last time. The morning sun cast long shadows across the courthouse steps, where Beverly and Mike already waited, dressed in their Sunday best. You ready? Beverly asked, smoothing an imaginary wrinkle from Marcus's suit jacket, the same one he'd worn to his grandmother's funeral. As ready as I'll ever be, Marcus replied, his voice steady despite the butterflies in his stomach. Inside the courtroom, Rachel Andrews was already seated at one of the tables, reviewing her notes. She looked up as Marcus entered, giving him an encouraging smile. The other table was occupied by James Wilson's attorney, a sharp-featured woman in an expensive suit. James himself sat behind his lawyer, looking both better and worse than the last time Marcus had seen him. He was clean-shaven now, wearing a pressed shirt, but his hands trembled slightly, and dark circles shadowed his eyes. As more people filed in, Marcus recognized familiar faces. Sarah from the hospital, Officer Rivera, neighbors from Maple Street. Even old Joe from the hardware store had come, clutching an envelope that Marcus knew contained a letter of support. The bailiff's voice rang out. All rise. The Honorable Judge Patricia Martinez presiding. Judge Martinez was a small woman with steel-gray hair and alert eyes that seemed to miss nothing as she surveyed the courtroom. Be seated, she said. We're here today regarding the temporary custody of Lily Wilson, case number 2024 JC 1542. Let's begin with the social worker's testimony. Rachel approached the witness stand, her heels clicking against the polished floor. For the next 20 minutes, she detailed Lily's rescue, her physical and emotional condition, and her progress over the past weeks. In my 15 years as a social worker, Rachel concluded, I've rarely seen such a strong and positive bond develop between a foster candidate and a child. Mr. Thompson has shown exceptional dedication to Lily's well-being. James's lawyer stood for cross-examination. Ms. Andrews, isn't it true that Mr. Thompson has no experience as a parent? No training in dealing with traumatized children? Mr. Thompson has completed all required foster parent training courses with excellent evaluations, Rachel replied calmly. He's also enrolled in additional child psychology workshops and joined support groups for single parents. More witnesses followed. Officer Rivera described finding Lily that day. The hospital staff testified about her physical condition and her remarkable progress in Marcus's presence. Neighbors admitted their shame at not acting sooner, but spoke of Marcus's character and his positive influence in the community. Then it was Marcus's turn. As he took the stand, he caught sight of Lily being led into the courtroom by a court advocate. She wore a purple dress Beverly had helped pick out and clutched her butterfly toy tightly. When she saw Marcus, her face lit up with a small smile. Mr. Thompson, Judge Martinez said, please tell us why you're seeking temporary custody of Lily Wilson. Marcus took a deep breath, remembering his grandmother's advice. Speak from your heart, baby. Truth has its own power. Your Honor, I wasn't looking to become a father that day on my delivery route. But when I heard Lily's whisper through that door, something changed. My grandmother raised me after my parents died, and she always said that sometimes God puts us exactly where we need to be. He described the moments at the door, the fear in Lily's voice, the trust she placed in him. She reminded me of myself at that age, scared, lost, needing someone to believe in. My grandmother saved me by taking me in. Now I have a chance to do the same for Lily. James's lawyer stood. Mr. Thompson, how can you possibly provide the kind of care a traumatized child needs while working full-time as a delivery driver? The same way my grandmother did while working 2 jobs, Marcus replied steadily. With love, dedication, and a strong support system. My supervisor has already adjusted my route to accommodate school hours. I have friends and neighbors willing to help. And most importantly, I have a commitment to putting Lily's needs first. Wouldn't Lily be better off with a traditional 2-parent family? One with experience raising children. Marcus met the lawyer's eyes. With all due respect, Lily had a traditional family. What she needs now isn't traditional. It's someone who understands loss, who knows how to rebuild trust, who can help her heal. I may not be the obvious choice, but I'm the one she trusts. More questions followed about his finances, his home, his qualifications. Marcus answered each one honestly, neither defensive nor apologetic. When he finished, Judge Martinez called for a brief recess. During the break, Marcus noticed James Wilson approaching hesitantly. I know I messed up, James said quietly. After Laura died, I couldn't handle it. Lily looks so much like her. She's not Laura, Marcus replied gently but firmly. She's Lily, and she deserves a chance to be herself, not a reminder of what you lost. James nodded, tears in his eyes. I know. That's why I told my lawyer to withdraw the objection to your custody petition. Lily needs someone who sees her for who she is. When court resumed, the judge called Lily forward. The little girl approached the bench, still clutching her butterfly. Lily, Judge Martinez said kindly, I know this is scary, but can you tell me how you feel about possibly living with Mr. Thompson? Lily looked at Marcus, then back at the judge. Her voice was small but clear. I want to stay with Marcus. He saved me. Can you tell me why you feel safe with him? He keeps his promises. He didn't leave me when I was scared. And she hugged her butterfly closer. He understands about butterflies, like Mommy did. He's making a garden for them at his house. Judge Martinez leaned forward. A butterfly garden? Yes. Because his grandmother taught him that butterflies are like hope. They come back even after the dark times. There wasn't a dry eye in the courtroom. Even James's lawyer dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. The judge studied the papers before her, including the stack of letters from the community. Finally, she looked up. Having heard all testimony and reviewed all evidence, I'm ready to make my decision. She paused, surveying the courtroom. The purpose of this court is to act in the best interest of the child. Sometimes that means looking beyond conventional solutions to find what a particular child truly needs. She turned to Marcus. Mr. Thompson, your commitment to Lily's well-being is evident. You've demonstrated not just the desire to provide for her, but the wisdom to seek help when needed and the strength to fight for what you believe is right. To James, she said, "Mr. Wilson, your decision to support this placement shows growth and understanding of your daughter's needs. I strongly encourage you to continue your rehabilitation program." Finally, to Lily, "Young lady, you've shown remarkable courage throughout this ordeal. I believe you deserve a chance to heal and grow in an environment where you feel safe and understood." Judge Martinez straightened her papers. "I hereby grant temporary custody of Lily Wilson to Marcus Thompson, with a review scheduled in 6 months. Mr. Thompson, the court entrusts you with this child's care and well-being. Do you accept this responsibility?" "I do, Your Honor," Marcus said firmly. "Then this court is adjourned." The bang of the gavel had barely faded when Lily ran to Marcus, throwing herself into his arms. He lifted her up, holding her close as tears ran down both their faces. "We did it, Butterfly," he whispered. "We did it." Beverly appeared with tissues, while Mike clapped Marcus on the shoulder. Rachel beamed through her own tears. Even Officer Rivera was smiling. As they left the courthouse, Lily still in Marcus's arms, the morning sun had risen high in the sky. A real butterfly, purple and gold, fluttered past them, making Lily gasp with delight. "Look," she pointed. "It's like Mommy and your grandmother are saying hello." Marcus smiled, thinking of 2 strong women who had taught him about love, courage, and the power of second chances. Now it was his turn to pass those lessons on. Together, he and Lily descended the courthouse steps, ready to begin their new life as a family. It wouldn't always be easy, but the best things in life rarely were. What mattered was that they would face whatever came next together. Just like butterflies, they had emerged from their dark cocoons into something new and beautiful, and they were ready to fly. The first morning in their new life together started with pancakes, or at least an attempt at pancakes. Marcus stared at the misshapen blob in the pan, while Lily giggled from her perch on a kitchen stool. "I think that one looks like a turtle," she said diplomatically. Marcus chuckled, carefully flipping the pancake. "Your mom was the artist, not me. But I promise I'll get better at this." "Can I help?" Lily asked, already reaching for the mixing bowl. "Sure, Butterfly. Just be careful." But before he could finish, a cloud of flour poofed into the air, coating them both in white powder. They looked at each other for a moment, then burst out laughing. It was the kind of laughter that heals, that breaks down walls, that makes a house feel like a home. "Well," Marcus said, wiping flour from his nose, "I guess we're both learning." The first weeks were a dance of adjusting routines and learning each other's rhythms. Marcus discovered that Lily liked her sandwiches cut diagonally. It tastes better that way. That she hummed while drawing, and that she still needed a night light, even though she insisted she wasn't afraid of the dark. Lily learned that Marcus sang old Motown songs while doing dishes, that he could fix almost anything with his toolbox, and that he always kept his promises. The therapy sessions were harder. Dr. Sarah Chin's office was painted in soothing colors, with a sand tray and art supplies for young clients. Lily clutched her butterfly toy tightly during the first session, speaking barely above a whisper. "It's okay to feel scared," Dr. Chin assured her. "We'll go at your pace." Marcus sat in on some sessions, learning how to help Lily process her trauma. He learned about triggers, coping mechanisms, and the importance of routine. "You're doing great," Dr. Chin told him after one particularly difficult session where Lily had finally talked about the day her mother died. "Your patience is exactly what she needs." School was another milestone. Cedar Grove Elementary's principal, Mrs. Rodriguez, welcomed them warmly, but Marcus still felt his heart racing as he walked Lily to her second-grade classroom. "What if they don't like me?" Lily whispered, gripping his hand. Marcus knelt down to her level. "Remember what we said about butterflies? They're brave even when they're scared?" "That's right. And you're my brave butterfly." He straightened her purple backpack. "I'll be right here when school ends." He watched through the classroom window as a little girl with braids approached Lily, admiring her butterfly hair clips. By pickup time, the two were chattering about their favorite colors and books. The community's support amazed him daily. Beverly organized a meal train for their first month. Old Joe from the hardware store built a proper easel for Lily's art. The Rodriguez kids from Marcus's delivery route shared their old books and toys. Sarah, Mike's wife, became their go-to babysitter when Marcus had early deliveries. She taught Lily to bake cookies and helped her with homework. It takes a village, Beverly reminded Marcus when he tried to thank everyone. We're your village. The transformation in Lily was like watching a flower bloom. The nightmares became less frequent. She started singing while she painted. Her smile, once so rare, became a daily gift. One afternoon, Marcus came home to find Lily teaching Katie, her new best friend, how to draw butterflies. You have to make the wings match, Lily explained seriously. But they don't have to be perfect. Mom always said nature isn't perfect. It's just beautiful. Marcus leaned against the doorframe, his heart full. 2 months ago, this same little girl had been whispering for help through a locked door. Now she was sharing her mother's wisdom, healing through art and friendship. His own growth surprised him too. He learned to braid hair, thanks to YouTube tutorials, to navigate parent-teacher conferences, to balance work and home life. He discovered reserves of patience he never knew he had, and a capacity for love that seemed endless. You're different, Beverly observed one day at work. Lighter somehow. Happier. Lily changed everything, Marcus admitted. She made me want to be better, to do better. The biggest surprise came 3 months after the court hearing. The community organized a barbecue in Marcus's backyard, which had transformed into a beautiful butterfly garden thanks to old Joe's expertise. As Lily showed Katie the newly emerged monarchs, Beverly called everyone's attention. We all know Marcus would never ask for help, she began, but we wanted to do something special for this new family. She handed Marcus an envelope. Inside was a certificate for a college savings account, already seeded with contributions from neighbors, colleagues, and friends. For Lily's future, Beverly explained, her eyes misting. Because we believe in both of you. Marcus tried to speak, but emotion choked his words. Lily ran to him, wrapping her arms around his waist. Are you crying, Marcus? Happy tears, butterfly, like rain that helps flowers grow. Later that evening, as the sun painted the sky in shades of pink and gold, Marcus and Lily sat on their porch swing. The butterfly garden buzzed with late summer activity, and the smell of Beverly's famous peach cobbler still lingered in the air. Marcus, Lily said softly, leaning against his side. I'm glad you heard me that day. When I whispered, Marcus pulled her closer. Me too, butterfly. Me too. Do you think Mom and your grandmother can see us? From heaven? Marcus looked at the garden, where 2 purple butterflies danced around the zinnias. I think they've been watching over us all along. Lily followed his gaze. Like guardian angel butterflies? Exactly like that. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun sink lower. So much had changed in just a few months, yet it felt like they'd always been meant to find each other. Marcus thought about the day everything changed. A routine delivery, a whispered plea, a choice to stop and listen. His grandmother had always said that love wasn't about blood or boundaries, but about the courage to open your heart when it mattered most. Lily yawned, curling closer. Can we have pancakes tomorrow? Sure can. Maybe we'll even make them butterfly-shaped. She giggled. They'll probably look like turtles again. Probably, Marcus agreed, smiling. But that's okay. We've got plenty of time to practice. As darkness settled around them, fireflies began to twinkle in the garden like earthbound stars. The porch light cast a warm glow, and somewhere down the street, children's laughter floated on the evening breeze. This was home now, not just the house, but the feeling of belonging, of family chosen and made stronger through love. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, with the wisdom of 2 guardian angels watching over them, and a garden full of butterflies to remind them that beautiful changes were always possible. The little girl who had whispered for help and the man who had stopped to listen had transformed each other's lives in ways neither could have imagined. Like butterflies emerging from their chrysalises, they had become something new and wonderful together. And this was just the beginning of their story. Marcus kissed the top of Lily's head, already planning tomorrow's pancake adventure. The future stretched before them like an open road, full of possibilities and promise. Sometimes the best destinations weren't the ones you planned, but the ones that found you when you were brave enough to listen to a whisper and kind enough to stay. For Marcus and Lily, that whisper had led them home. The end. What would you do if you heard a whisper crying out for help? Would you have the courage to stop and listen? Marcus and Lily's story reminds us that sometimes the most precious deliveries aren't packages at all, but the chances we get to change someone's life. If their journey touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe for more stories that celebrate the power of choosing kindness and the magic of new beginnings. Until next time, remember, sometimes all it takes is one person willing to stay. See you in the next one.